So today we're going to be reacting to the Dan Batard post about the WNBA. I've been sent this by about 5 people, and I think Ben Daniel might have already made a reaction to it because I'm not going to lie, I just clicked on YouTube and saw right before I had this video made, I had a bunch of list a bunch of them, and it came up in my newsfeed. So if he did, obviously I'm not first to this, but shout out to Dan Batard, who obviously has experience in the front office, and I just seen a general kind of idea of what he says, and I'm going to talk about this, and I think I'm going to disagree with his point, but also kind of agree with his point. But let's take a listen here, and if you guys agree or disagree and just want to listen to like me talking into a microphone, subscribe. We are trying to hit 56,700 by the end of the day. We're 34 subscribers off. Anyway, let's take a listen.
Let me talk about the WNBA, because there is a yarn that is being thread that is so wrong. The players have come out talking about, we did it. This was all about business, and we mean business. And they are taking a victory lap on this CBA agreement with Adam Silver and the NBA owners. Except when you look at what the WNBA owners were offering 7 months ago versus what the players agreed to yesterday, it's a tiny smidge better, but not even close to where the WNBA owners were willing to go. The revenue sharing number stayed well below the 20 range. The salary cap growing to $10 million over 7 years. Oh my God. An opt-out after 6 years only. The minimum salary, hey, 300 grand. Way to go. I'm happy there's an agreement, don't get me wrong. But there's nothing I like better than a victory lap done by someone who just got their ass kicked. I get it. I understand you're going to win the PR because people aren't going to focus on it. But Adam Silver and the NBA got exactly the deal they wanted.
Yeah, he's absolutely not wrong that the owners came out as... like, the owners got... it was a lot closer what the owners wanted than what the players wanted. But, like, I can't remember what it was. It was, like... I think it might have been Robin Lombard that made this reference where it's, like, they're trying to go... what they're currently doing now is trying to go straight into the end zone. But their initial proposals were, like... were, like, in the parking lot. It was that outrageous. And they got to just go bit by bit by bit. This was a number... the WNBA as a league came up with numbers that were so outrageous that they were never going to be given. The league gave them a proposal in October that they hoped they would accept. And when we're talking about percentages, the difference is that up until February, there was no guarantee. There was a revenue threshold on all the rev split. So if they didn't hit a threshold of revenue, they made $0. That is now gross revenue, which I didn't think they were going to get. Even though it's a much lower gross revenue percentage, I thought, like, okay, they might be able to get an equivalent of 18% gross rev and net rev, which I actually think getting like 90% net rev is better than getting 18% gross rev, but it's safer to get 18% gross rev. Doesn't really matter. That being said, so that's kind of what they went into it. They went into that, and we're looking at it like that, and it's just like, okay, the 7 million salary cap, I think they wanted 12 and they went down to 7, and the owners wanted 5 from like early on. Look, the owners were putting forward way more realistic deals. But they still, nothing is a loss for the players. They're victory lapping because they still won. Any deal is a win. Any deal where you get 500% increase is a win. Could they have held out and got more? Yeah. But then you're in a game of chicken with people who have a lot less to lose than you. Considering the fact the players did not have any leverage, they did well. They did well. They had no leverage whatsoever because there were people that wanted that league to shut down on the NBA side that had as much stake in the WNBA as anyone that wanted anyone that's not a direct owner, one of the 13 direct owners, and wanted the league to be shut down. It happens. It is a weird thing where there are people involved in it involved in these negotiations that wanted the league to shut down. The owners got a deal. The players got what I believe was the best deal they had the leverage for. I said it from the start. They got a better deal than it depends. Sorry, I said they could get the equivalent of 18% in net rev. I didn't think they were going to get in gross rev, but an equivalent of 18% gross rev based on current projections via net rev is 90% net rev, which I thought they still could have gotten. And depending on the success of the league, 90% net rev is more than likely going to be way better than gross rev. So it doesn't really matter. But I just never thought the owners were going to give them gross rev. But they're in a position now where what we all thought was going to be the best thing, where it's like, no matter what, you have to get this done, because this isn't the CBA that you are going to get what you want. It's the next CBA. So CBA after that, it's 20 years down the line where the league's successful enough to buy back the shares, to buy out the NBA, to buy out the owners, and the league can sustain on its own. But we're 20 years away from that. We're 20 years away. So it's one of those things where I think the owners, this is a deal where the owners feel like they're guaranteed to not lose more money long term, while the players are making 4 or 5 times more money. It is the definition of a win-win. Could the players have got more money out of this? Maybe. Could the players have stalled, kind of scared the league? Maybe. But could the players have striked and there'd be $0, or striked and the league being like, look, we're not actually giving you this. You remember what we offered you? We're not actually giving you that anymore. The reason why we're not giving you that is because you just lost us a bunch of money, so we can't give you that. We have to recoup that money, so your salary cap's down to $4 million. There was equal chance of that happening if you striked. So look, both sides played the game of chicken too long, or the league kind of played the game of chicken too long. Could the league have maybe gotten an extra $1 million in salary cap? Not with the way things were going. They couldn't have. And the players are victory lap. Do you want to know why the players have the victory lap? Because they spent so much time talking about transformational this, transformational that in the lead-in, and they had to start calling it transformational. And if they didn't call it transformational, they wouldn't have been taken seriously. Because they literally were like, we're not stopping until we get exactly what we want. They didn't get anywhere close to what they wanted. But they still have to make it out. And they did, so that they don't lose the PR battle. Because, with the numbers they agreed on, by the way, if those numbers were presented 10 days ago, the fans would have been like, oh, they're folding, they folded. Based on what they said themselves 3 weeks ago, they folded. And based on what everyone, even what Kelsey Plum was saying, what so many people were saying, were like, instead of focusing on one specific thing, which is the rev split, which isn't tied to salary, why not focus on all the wins? You have 1 million wins, but there's one thing you can't really figure out. And they got way less in the rev split than they wanted. Way less, like half of what they wanted. It was like 30% more than the league wanted to give them, but half of what they wanted. Overall, it was mad. That being said, we're at the stage now where they just there was too many buzzwords. There was, I think gross rev split was a buzzword. And I think in hindsight, a net rev split of, instead of an 18% gross rev, I think a net rev split of 80 would be much more beneficial for them in hindsight. But gross rev split was their buzzword. Transformational was their buzzword. They needed, as a league, as a players, they needed these buzzwords to go to players. They basically handed them almost the exact same contract as December. The salaries, the cap was 5.6 mil. So the cap went to 1.5 mil since December. And I think they were calling it a slap in the face. And I get it. 1.5 mil is an extra 100K per player. I get it. It's a lot of money. But people are like, oh, if it wasn't for none of this would happen if it wasn't for the threat of a strike. But I'm like, if it wasn't for both sides being petty as fuck, they could have gotten into a room and come to this agreement, this 7 million agreement in December. Both sides were just petty as fuck, and it ended with the players probably getting in and around what the best they could have bargained for was, based on the fact that their owners willing to burn it down. And it is a win. It's a huge win. It may be not a huge win compared to what they're originally asking for, but when you're asking for something that is absolutely so outrageous, like if you had said that this was what deal they would have gotten in, let's just say August, a year ago in August, that this was the deal they would have gotten, you would have said, oh my God, this is unbelievable. It's only an L for the players if you're judging it based on the completely unrealistic, crazy proposals the league wouldn't even respond to because they were that outrageous. But anyway, yeah, that's the video. I actually do agree with him that like the players are victory lapping basically the same, like a very slight improvement from 4 months ago. But I also disagree with him that it's the deal from 4 months ago was a good deal for the players. This is a great deal for the players. So anyway, see you guys.